So I am on the home stretch of this little rug, and the first thing I did when my weaving space got smaller is I switched to a smaller shed stick. And for a smaller shed stick, you can use anything just to hold that shed open. This is a piece of stainless steel welding rod. You can use umbrella ribs, skewers, knitting needles, coat hangers, anything just to hold that shed open. So that's the first thing I did, is switch to a smaller shed stick. And eventually I will have to take that out too. The next thing I did is I switched to a smaller batten. This is what I was weaving with to begin with. Then I switched to a medium size, and finally to a small size. If you don't have a small one, just remember you can use a larger one, but leave it flat. Don't turn it on its side, just leave it flat. I'm to the point I'm using this small one now. So the other thing is, when you beat down, it's kind of more of a pressing rather than a beating, so you don't have a whole lot of room to beat down, so just kind of press with your fork. Now your string heddles are useful only so long. The last 2 inches, they're really not very helpful. They're more of a hindrance than a help. So then I remove the string heddles. So to do that, all you do is just slide the dowel out of the strings. So just slide it out. And then you just pull on the end of the string, and it comes out very easily. So without the string heddles, I'm going to have to manually open that shed with my batten. So when I go to do that shed, I will just open it with my batten. And I'll probably work half and half, do half at a time. So you just open it with your batten, as far as it's practical. And then just run your needle, oops, I did the wrong shed. And then just run your needle through. I was actually on this other shed. So I'm working with the needle as my space is getting smaller. And then I just kind of just beat it down gently, and more of a pressing motion rather than a beating motion. So I'm going to continue in this manner, opening up my shed with my shed stick every other time. And then I'll come back when I have a little bit further finished and show you how we're going to do the final inch or half of an inch. So I'm going to keep on weaving. I'll catch you in a few minutes. Now we're down to the final 1 inch, and I need to remove my shed stick because it's not doing any good right now. So I'm going to just slide it out. Now there are some tools when you get to the final inch that are kind of critical. You need some needles, and I like to use a couple longer tapestry needles. They're blunt end. You can also use sacking needles. And then I like to use a couple shorter tapestry needles. You can find these at most hobby and craft shops. So those are pretty indispensable. So now that I don't have a shed stick and I don't have any string heddles on, now I have to open my shed manually each time. So I find the easiest way to do that is with a needle. You can also use a knitting needle. You can use anything small and stiff. These 6-inch needles, oops, work good. So all you do is just open your shed with your needle for a short distance. You aren't going to go all the way across, needless to say, but open it for a short distance, and then run your needle through that shed that you've opened. And beat it down. Or actually, you're more like pressing it down at this point. I have this long needle I like real well. So I use it to open my shed. And I always like to open my shed with something other than the needle I am putting the weft in with, so that there's not such a drag on my weft yarn. And you'll notice I've already woven my last little 1/2 inch, so I'm going to end away from the peg bars, not right up against them. It's a lot easier. So kind of just press your weft down each row. And then you're going to continue in this manner until you get to the last little dab. And when you get to that last little 1/4 inch, it's helpful to have something to open your shed with. And I like to use these little tapestry needles just to hold my shed open, so I kind of just press it down so I can run my weft through. And at that point, you generally have to run your weft through on the needle, but only do a short distance, like 2 or 3 warps at a time, so that you don't pull your weft yarn out of shape. So continue in this manner until you get to the last little 1/4 inch, and then I'll touch back with you. Now I'm on my last little 1/4 inch, and I have switched from using a needle to open my shed to opening my shed with the needle that's on my weft yarn. And at this point I'm just going to pick up 2 or 3 warps at a time. One reason is so that you lay enough yarn in. If you go too far and you're pulling on it, you tend to pull too hard and you don't lay enough yarn in. And then you want to just kind of press it down. And you can see how much more space you get when you press it down. If you don't have a metal tined fork, I recommend just a common kitchen fork, because it has little narrow teeth, so you can get the teeth in between your rows. So you're just going to press it down like this as you go. And you can also use a tapestry needle. You can open your shed a little bit with the tapestry needle. Just press it down, and it helps open your shed. This is a little tedious, but it's going to go pretty fast with this bulky yarn. So I'm just doing 2 or 3 warps at a time all the way across, and then I'm going to just open my shed, and see I've got about 1/4 inch to go. So when you finish, you want to make sure that you end in a row in the opposite shed. Right now I have my wefts in the same shed, so I want to finish with a row going this way, which would put them into the opposite shed. Also, you've noticed that I've turned my loom upside down. It doesn't matter whether you're weaving right side up or upside down, but you want to end in a plain band. Also, I find it easier to end with my loom upside down because it's better on your body if you're weaving below your shoulder height, so you don't develop any shoulder problems. So you want to weave where it's most comfortable. And as long as you're ending in a plain band, it doesn't matter whether you're ending up here or here, and it doesn't matter whether you're right side up or upside down. Either way is perfectly fine, whatever is the most comfortable for you. The other thing is, when you finish your weaving, you want to remember to put that top pins back in above the top bar. Make sure you get your pins back in. Don't try to pull it off with tension still on your weaving, because you will bend your peg bars. So be sure to put the top pins back in your loom, and then you can just slide it off the peg bars. And it should be finished as it comes off the loom, with maybe the exception of the beginning and the ending of the warp yarn, and then you put it on a needle and run it back up alongside that outside warp. So once you finish this last little 1/4 inch, you're ready to remove your weaving, and enjoy. And be sure to use your weavings so that you use them every day and can enjoy them every day. So happy weaving, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you for watching.